This is my mommy, the modern shaman.
Yeah! No, you gotta begin. You gotta be in it.
Oh.
Hello, everyone. This is Rachel here, the modern shaman, and I have a special guest on my channel today. My beautiful daughter, making the silly face, Talia. And she is officially on summer break. Summer has begun. And she was up this morning already asking for breakfast.
Did you say summer has big guns?
Summer has begun, not big guns. So, but that would work too. Summer has some big guns, like muscles. So I wanted her to say hi to you guys because I was working on my video and she popped into my office. You want to say hi?
Hi.
Well, I'm back. I wanted to say before I dive into this week's question, if you are new to this channel, I am glad you're here. Thanks for being with us and joining in for another YouTube video of the week. And this channel basically is just open content to answer you all's questions within the metaphysical and paranormal community. But also I would love to guide you towards the resource of my website, which is themodernshaman.net. I have a lot of information there if you'd like personal one-on-one sessions with me, if you would like to study deeper in my masterclass teaching curriculum, or if you'd like to join us in person for live events this summer. There's a lot of information on the website. Again, that's themodernshaman.net. Okay, here's the question you guys sent in. This one came in through my phone, but I just had it translated. Okay, so it says, Aloha, Rachel. I feel called to ask you about animal communication. I'm curious if you have any experience with animal communication. If so, do you have any tips or pointers on opening up the channel for animal communication? Because I remember when you gave me some tips on how to communicate with my guides back in 2017 in a session, and that truly opened up my entire world to being able to channel. So I would love any tips that you might have. I'm so excited to hear your response. Aloha. Okay, yes, I work with animals. Really, I work with, I'm gonna say all sorts of beings. So yes, I mostly work with animals when it comes to mediumship sessions with an animal that someone absolutely loved as their own child and they still want to communicate on the other side, or they need a sense of closure. And animal medical intuition. That's typically what happens if somebody has questions about the health of their animal or wants to communicate with them. So yeah, and for me, it's the same process. So I would say that you can utilize a lot of the same techniques that you were using to channel and communicate with your guides. My tips would be always ask permission. So animals do not have an ego like humans. So there's a bit of an openness in their auric field, and it's very easy for them to feel vulnerable. And because of that, I would say always ask permission. I feel like there is much deeper level of connection and integrity and respect in working with animals when you gain a sense of permission and understanding, so they know what you're doing because they feel it. And they're very, like I said, open in terms of their auric field. There is like no sense of defense there in terms of psychic boundaries. So I think it can be kind of abrasive to their energy if you just show up and, you know, move right into their body or their auric field. Depending on the specific type of communication you're trying to do. Like if it's for medical intuition and you're trying to scan their body, or if you're asking direct information. I would always say that as my first tip for you, get permission. And you can do that in various ways with animals. You have to remember also, I guess this is tip number 2, is that animals do not language like we do as humans, right? That seems very obvious, but sometimes we forget that. I don't know, as humans, we kind of have this natural arrogance to us that assumes that everything is very human-like. And in the non-physical realm, it's not. It's the same with like galactic beings and entities or species that are not human species. We forget that they don't have our same concept of like this kind of duality of like good versus evil, or this black and white, or these kind of ideas of like suffering. And so oftentimes the language and the wording that we use with our questions is very important, because it has to be open enough to let in the emotional answers. And I don't know if that makes sense, but you don't want to language it in such a way that feels so human that it makes no sense, or the answers can't come back from the other side because they don't feel and they don't process the way we process as a human. Okay? So I would suggest that you remember that they are not human. They do not language like humans. So be open, more so emotionally open with your questions. And I say that because a lot of people ask about like, was there any pain, or could I have done anything? And they have guilt over how they handled the transition of an animal. This comes up a lot with clients that are wanting to do some type of mediumship in animal communication. And the animal has no concept of death in the way that we view death. They are not human, so they don't process that suffering or that guilt. It's so natural that is a hard question to ask an animal and to get a truly pure answer back. Do you see what I'm saying? Because they're not human and they don't view it that way. It's the same asking questions about like moral things. When you ask that to galactic beings, it's like this, their brain is not human. So the communication there is, you have to be cognizant of that in the way that you are asking your questions in communication, or setting that intention. So that tip would be to open the emotional language to where you could say something like, I would like to know more about how the process of your transition was, or what was the process, or what was your death like, or what was it, and then they will give you that answer back, instead of asking about the guilt that you feel, or the shame of how it went down, or the pain that they experienced, because again, those are very human processes for us emotionally. Instead, be more open-ended with your questions, especially when it deals with like morality or ethics from a human context, right? Or this dualistic world in which we learn and grow our evolution. It's very different in the way that the primal world grows and learns their lessons and why they came to the earth. I would also say purify your vibration. So animals work on a very, very pure vibrational level. So a lot of luminance and light in their being, but also very earthy. So very quick to express. So they feel a little bit like, if you've ever channeled like an autistic person, or even someone with ADDs where the processing speed in their brain is very quick. So they may answer you very quick, but they're going to speak through empathic telecommunication, because again, they don't language, so we're not hearing a lot of clairaudient communication. So if you're predominantly clairaudient, animal communication is totally different. It is going to be communication through your empathic, emotional awareness. So this is the primary language of the animal kingdom, and really a lot of the mineral kingdom. They communicate mostly through empathic, so the feeling tone. So you may say and ask the direct question, tell me about your passing. What was that experience like for you? All right, again, open-ended. And then they may, feel like this energy of joy and happiness, or lights and just like this excitement, or they may give you the feeling of tiredness, or the tone in which they are communicating. So it's the feeling in which they communicate, and you can get more and more accurate precision with that. The more, when you're languaging it to your client, you are tuning into that feeling response. So you ask the question and you get the feeling response. And again, sometimes the answers come back quick, so you can ask more questions, but you want to tune in to that quick, automatic emotional response. Sometimes, because I'm clairvoyant, if you are also clairvoyant, they may show you imagery of them running in a field, things that make them happy. They may show themselves cuddling, communicating that their passing was very comfortable, or that they will show themselves in your lap, that they felt loved, that they felt safe. Again, you're reading the emotional tone with which they are communicating. And that is the clearest type of communications that animals give. Is that reading of emotional language. So when you're translating it in our human language and understanding what the emotions feel like. So my tips would be to get very precise with emotional readings, empathic readings. How, and when I say precise, it's kind of like learning a variance of vocabulary for emotional language. So if you're training in this, I would literally, the teacher part of me, would print out a list of emotions and just verbiage of like, what's all these different ways to explain comfort or love, or joy, or, whatever it may be. And kind of read up on different ways to explain that, and I would feel into each one of those words. So in my practice of getting better and better at animal communication, I would sit for a second and I would read a particular word, ecstatic, and I would sit and I would initiate the thought of that word, ecstatic, and I would feel where my emotional energy starts in the body. Okay, those that are very cognizant of their own body and their emotional response, you may literally feel it in a particular area of the body, a particular area of the heart, and get as precise as you can. So maybe that excitement is in the right side of your heart and it feels like a flutter. Okay, and then I would jot that down. Right side of the heart feels like a flutter. And just kind of train yourself to recognize very efficiently different emotional resonant tones within the body. This is going to get you to be like exceptional with your animal communication, really with a lot of your non-physical beings and the way that they communicate, because there are a lot of planetary beings or higher vibrational beings. Also channeling those that have difficulty with communication. So if you're have clients that have Alzheimer's or dementia or autism, this type of language and communication and channeling for clients is so powerful. So really training yourself, if you want to be better, that would be my advice or my tip, is to ask permission, always give respect to that animal that you are going to interact and that you would like their help in that interaction and the clearest communication possible with them. And then purifying your vibration so that you connect in a way. When I say purify your vibration, I mean like the humanness that makes us dense. So those are the, like you think of the 7 deadly sins that really like lower our vibrational density. So if we're working through the crap of our human existence, human lessons, lust, sloth, wrath, greed, pride, gluttony, envy. I may have missed one. Those are the big, what they call the 7 deadly sins. But essentially, those are like big life lessons. All of the heavy stuff that we come and we incarnate and we work through, kind of churning out this higher vibrational frequency. That's what I mean by purifying your vibration. Work through your stuff, work on your own stuff. And if you're right before a session, ask to be cleaned and cleansed of any lower vibrational density in your mental mind, your auric field, your physical body, so that you may be a pure, refined channel. And then move into that accuracy with your empathic emotional communication. Open-ended questions That's how you would start it, and then looking for the response in an emotional tone and expressing that with as much clarity as you can by practicing that kind of language vocabulary of understanding a lot of ways to describe emotional tone. So I hope that was helpful to you. I will be back next week with yet another video and a question that you guys send in. Blessings.